Story time, kiddies. So, I don't have any beer. I don't have any more beer. My fridge is cleaned out of that. But I do have some of these, so I'm gonna drink these, even though it's not real beer. And at least I drank the passion fruit one because it tastes like garbage. And these are pretty good. These are pretty decent. So, back to the story on hand. I still remember the first toy line that I got as a kid. Obviously, parents bought it, but I remember the first action figure line that was not a hand-me-down for me, or wasn't something that my brother had gotten. It was something that they got for me in its action figure related, and it wasn't anything that I guess you could call babyish. Like it wasn't like Sesame Street, even though Sesame Street is cool. So with regards to that, I still remember the first toy line that I got, and he'll deny it to this day, but hey, I have good memory, especially concerning my childhood years. My brother would always be kind of like this convincing influence on me. He would kind of be like, hey, like, I guess because he was a bit older, and it was kind of like he was old enough that it was looked down upon for him to be playing with toys. So he would try to like convince me to, hey, why don't you go for that toy line? Because he wanted to get those figures for himself, but he was too old for that. So he would get me, and he would kind of like convince me, like, hey, don't these look cool? You should go for this. You should go for this. And we ended up going towards different toy lines. G.I. Joe, I remember G.I. Joe and Sergeant Savage in particular. Like, he kickstarted that for me, though. He kickstarted the G.I. Joes for me. And they were bought for me, but he would use them, and he would like set up these dioramas. He would like hang them from like the room. But they were gotten for me, But before the G.I. Joes, I recall the first ever toy line that was gotten for me, or that was acquired for me. Actually, let's use correct verbiage here, and that was X-Men. The X-Men toy lines, that classic X-Men toy line with the packaging, the orange blister cards for the heroes and the purple blister cards for the villains. And I still remember that day when we went to Toys R Us. It was an evening, and we got a few heroes, and we got a lot of villains. And surprise, I still have some of them now. Warning, this is pre me taking care of my action figures era, so they're gonna be really damaged, but we should start it off right here with this Wolverine. And yes, this is the Wolverine that I had as a kid. And yeah, I mean, the first thing you lose is the mask, which they advertised as it fitting as a ring as well, because it would just like tie around his head like that. And yeah, you could see all the wear and tear on this guy, like a lot of paint scruffs and stuff like that. I used to play with them in the bathtub. Yes, they do. And yeah, this guy had the spring-loaded claws. Obviously, the spring is loose, gone on some of them, but on one of his hands, but on this one, it's still works. And let's move on. I don't even know who this guy is, to be honest, which I think his name is Tusk. I could be wrong. He's just one of the villains. He used to come with like a little guy that would pop out here, but that little guy is long gone. Let's move forward. Okay, so we're getting to Omega Red. So you see he's obviously missing a leg, right? So yeah. So I kind of did not take care of Omega Red. I would even go as far as to say I broke his leg the first day I had him. He was fighting this guy of all people, and I remember playing with these in my living room, and literally like the fight, and boom, he whacked him. He flew against the wall. That like there's a hallway where if you go to the left, you go to the kitchen, and if you go to the right, you go to the bedrooms and the bathroom. And literally like right smack dab in the middle of that hallway Omega Red landed, and his leg just fell off. So it literally broke like the first night he owned them. And you still have like these extendable claws right here, but they're obviously long gone as well. But yeah, that's one notable, and he used to have like a ponytail here. But yeah, that's one notable thing I remember about the Omega Red. So let's go for Soren. And I really like Soren, and he became a Build-A-Figure for one of the recent waves, and I don't know. I'm holding out on them re-releasing him on himself, and he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to. You don't have to buy all the figures in that line in order to just assemble him, and I don't. And I'd be willing to have him be in a different color deco, because sometimes they tend to do that. They tend to re-release figures, build the figures, but they tend to like just miscolor them a little bit or recolor them in certain places just so you don't have the exact same figure that you would have had, and had you bought those 6 figures like a seller. Who would do such a thing, right? And moving forward is Professor X, and yeah, he is awesome, and to this day he's a great figure. I feel he could even fit in with like modern Marvel Legends, really. I mean, kind of lacks in articulation, but then again, so does the real Professor X, right? So, Professor X, that was one of the few heroes we got in, because for some odd reason we didn't get that many heroes. The other hero we got is, of course, Scott Summers Cyclops. He used to have this switch right here. He used to hit it, and his visor would light up red. And yeah, I must have ruined that visor light up feature like probably like a few weeks into owning him. Didn't help that I used to like have him like in the shower, in the tub. So he got wet, his internal components got wet. He's done, so just look at him, just look at that jittery legs right there, that guy. And Juggernaut, another victim of my harsh play, and he was great for his times, but just look how he scales with the figures. This guy's supposed to Hulk over everyone else, and he's the same size as Wolverine. Something's up. Of course, it was a different era. Sculpting really wasn't that big of a deal. As long as it kind of looked like the person, you could churn them out and sell them to the masses. Ditto for Mr. Sinister. He also had a light up feature, and another villain. Apocalypse, probably one of my favorite X-Men figures, and he would extend, and that would sort of like double for Apocalypse, kind of like extending his body, growing bigger, and he's had like these tentacles as well that would be attached to him. Gone along with his leg, my leg. And finally we get to Magneto, and holy shit, fucking talk about fucking Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Such a he's seen better days. I do have his helmet. I still have his helmet, but I have his helmet and then like just in an accessories bag, miscellaneous accessories and stuff like that. So that's one thing that did survive from this guy. I think the gimmick for this guy would be like these pods right here. They used to be magnetic, so he could like legit get magnetics. Get him stuck to like magnetic things, but I guess they don't work anymore. Too many times in the bathtub, and I guess the magnetic energy wore off on them. Before we get to the actual figure that I want to showcase, just and connect everything together, I'm gonna show you guys these other figures, X-Men related as well, and these were handed out, and I used to own the whole set. It used to be Cyclops, Wolverine, Rogue, and Storm, I believe. And the villains used to be Avalanche. I think this guy's called Commando, actually. Avalanche, Commando, the Blob. I wish I could remember the 4th guy, but yeah. These were great. These would always double as like villains that were like I would never have. So it's amazing what a kid's imagination could do. Really, like, hey, I don't have these guys, so and they don't scale perfectly. But hey, they're villains. Hey, to me, in my imagination, they were just the same. They were all the same size, really. despite it all, I continued on with my childhood, and I started getting into other lines. I started taking better care of them. Like, for instance, these figures are just wrecked, but it's okay, man. It's the value in them, I guess. It's the sentimental value in them. After that, I got into G.I. Joe's, Sergeant Savage. I still have some of the Sergeant Savage things, but they're also wrecked. After that, I got into Ninja Turtles Next Mutation. I remember those were the figures that were big, and they would come with a bunch of accessories, but they're kind of gone as well. I mean, in addition to like other figure lines, mind you, there were other figure lines. Like I remember getting the Super Mario Brothers movie line at one, like for one birthday, and I remember just getting like random wrestlers whenever we would go to vacation in Mexico. You would go to like the fucking El Centro, El Centro where all the buses were, and you would just see like these wooden Mexican rings with like those figures that would always just have like the fucking like that pose, but they would all be painted different, and I just acquired a lot of figures like that. And yeah, it's as I got older, I would still collect figures up to a certain point, but I'm getting too far ahead of myself. I'm getting into like kind of like another story really. I feel like I should save that other story. But the last line I ended up collecting at that time was the original Toy Biz Marvel Legends, and I think when I stopped, they were barely gonna release Series 5, which was I think it was like the Silver Surfer wave, the Red Skull variant. He was the Chase variant in that line. And yeah, that was like the last line. I gave it up for a while, due to certain reasons, which guess you could say I just felt like growing up at that time, which is one of the biggest mistakes. If I could give anyone any advice, you don't growing up is not necessarily acting adults. It's just becoming more responsible for yourself and your actions, but you could still have fun, you could still enjoy yourself. I'm not an old fart, but I've been around in this world long enough to know that that's really all that matters. As long as you control yourself, you control your responsibilities, you control your emotions, you could have fun no matter what kind of fun you want to have, as long as it doesn't harm another person, obviously. You could get into any hobby that you want. You could collect action figures, you could collect Legos, you could whatever. You could do you could collect fishing lures, you could collect coins, collect baseball cards, whatever. You could collect actual baseballs from like game used baseballs. Do whatever you want. As long as you're not harming anyone, do it. And who gives a fuck what anyone else thinks, honestly. And yeah, and along with these figures, I ended up getting a Magneto later on, because and an Omega Red. I actually have a Marvel Legends form, obviously the Cyclops. I even had Wolverine in this costume, and it took a while to actually get Wolverine in this costume, because they just kept churning out like the yellow and blue Wolverine over and over again. And eventually, because I missed out on the legendary Series 6. I wasn't there for that time, so it's like I missed out on Series 6 Deadpool, which I had to get later on at another time. But once again, that's another story for another day. Point in case is, like, I always figured that there were certain characters that were never gonna be made. I'm like, they're never gonna make this guy. And time again, it was proven that yeah, they're just not gonna make this guy, and they're especially not gonna make this guy in the costume that I want them to make this guy. And we go into the subject of today, and that is, boom, Strong Guy. He is, of course, from X Factor. That's the Havoc-led X Factor after Cyclops and Jean Grey and all of them rejoined the X-Men, and they started X-Men Blue and X-Men Gold. The Jim Lee run, I guess, the famous Jim Lee run. That's the run that's based on that the animated series heavily borrowed from. But obviously there was a separate team called X Factor that had Havoc and Polaris and Strong Guy and all these other characters, and I'm like, for a while I thought this guy was never going to be made. He was never going to be made. until next thing you know, mail call. So now it's a mail call video, and let's open it up. And of course, for safety purposes, I already deleted or locked out my address to prevent all the stalkers, like that dog, to prevent all the stalkers from getting to me. And this is the reason why. Of course, I'm using the Cuesta Menos knife to open this. Whoa, would you look at that? Is that Strong Guy's arm? Along with Shikla. Yeah, Shikla. What? Remember how I had mentioned I did not have an X-Force Warpath in my last video? Is that X-Force Warpath? I mean, yes, it's X-Force Warpath along with a leg of Strong Guy. Hey, is that Pirate Deadpool? Yeah, along with another leg of Strong Guy. Maverick, you're not Tom Cruise. Along with another arm of Strong Guy. Wait, did I just say that? Pirate Deadpool. Whatever. Sunspot, what? Sunspot, and he comes with a torso of Strong Guy? Black Tom, and you come with the back of Strong Guy? What? What is this? And finally, the X-Men version of Deadpool, and he comes with Strong Guy's head. Did I just get the whole line? I did. And yeah, so as soon as I saw that they had made a Build-A-Figure of Strong Guy in this costume, I'm like, I need to get it. I need to get it because I never thought this guy was going to be made, in all honesty. I never thought this guy was going to be made. And they made him. So it's like, hey, I got to get him. Even if they were to re-release him, I'm like, if they were to re-release him, they're probably going to give him his other costume. Like another costume that's not this yellow one that's from this figure. So I'm like, I need to get this line. I need to get this wave. And I ended up getting this wave. Plus, it gives me more fodder for reviews, you know. So it's a win-win. So catch me review these figures pretty soon. And just got another package. It's kind of unrelated though. It's not gonna be as successful as the Strong Guy way, but screw it. Let's do like these package unboxing videos from now on as well. Let's add up that video count. You know? And I ended up getting this board game. If you guys have been following my stories, you guys saw me kind of post like a thought emoji on a certain board game, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go get it. And that board game is Throw Burrito, a Dodge Raw card game. The Extreme Edition with the giant, and when I say giant, I mean giant, ginormous, big inflatable burritos. It seems like a really fun game. No, honestly. I guess that's it. Really. That's it for story time. That's it for the unboxing videos. Look out for these reviews soon. More than likely, I am probably gonna start my reviews with this guy, the Pirate Deadpool. You're looking at him now. It looks pretty damn awesome, honestly. And yeah, I guess that's all I gotta do. That's all I gotta say. Thanks again for watching this video, you guys. As always, I love y'all. Peace and love. And that is it for me. Take care.